Welcome to the Six-Figure Author Experiment, where we help you break through your first or next $100,000 goal. Parental discretion is advised. Now, let's get on with the show.
Hello, everyone. Hi.
Hands.
I am.
Hands.
I am.
Oh,
I am so excited because, like, to me, Katie Cross is like famous. Like, I've been talking about her for so long that, like, I feel I'm like, wow. When I met you at 20 books, I was listening. When you were like, I know you. It's like, is this what? Is this what that like? What a great like being met by one of like by like someone famous and them knowing you is like amazing.
Oh, you're so generous. I felt the same way. So we're both just fudging through this.
it's fun because I was like, what are you guys doing that's working? And N.S. Johnson said direct sales. And I was like Katie Cross? Like, like the poster child direct sales? I mean, many people have. I remember when people were like, I'm trying it. And it was still so early days that they were like, what do they use? Gumroad? You know, I mean.
Oh my gosh. That's like the angel fire of this generation, right? Like,
Absolutely.
There's
all right, before we go,
Gumroad.
hang on, before we go down this road, like, since like Katie might not be famous to other people outside of this podcast, like, can you introduce yourself and a little bit about your work?
yeah, it's a very small niche popularity that I have. I'm Katie Cross. I live in the mountains of Montana with my 2 children, 3 dogs, and I just really love to write books about dragons and magic. I mean, that's it. I just really love to write and sell books to readers. And a lot of people know me for direct sales, but most people know me for my fantasy books.
Yeah, why your name stuck in my head first with direct sales was you were the first person that I remember who was selling fantasy like direct, like and making huge, like just like the kind of fantasy I write. Like, not that I don't love Lydia Sher, but like I don't write I don't write familiars. Not that I don't love Emily Kimmelman, but like I don't write like thrillers with dogs. Like, so like when I was like, wait, it is possible to do this thing with like fantasy dragons and like magic books. I was like, okay, now I have a model.
Yes. Oh, I'm glad to hear that, because sometimes you just need to see yourself out in the world and then you make it your own, right? Like, oh, yeah, that means I can do it. Done. And then you find your own path. It's amazing. I have the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I did mostly with Kickstarter first, but like now I'm very like we're trying to figure out our Shopify store after a year of having Lee talking to me and like Pierre and all these people and like, no, you really need to like get a store set up. And I'm like, I mean, I have series pages, that's good. And they're like, it's fine, but like get a Shopify store already in Klaviyo.
You don't have to, but you like direct, Russell. I feel like I was in a mastermind and there were 8 of us and we were all running a different business, which is a cool mastermind. Because oftentimes I go to masterminds with my friends and we're all running the same business. So this was neat because everyone was successful in a completely different way. Someone was killing it on TikTok. Someone else just like signed a book deal. And, you know, someone else was just running a ton of Amazon ads to their city guides. There was nonfiction. It's like, this is cool. Yeah. It was a good mastermind. And I feel that way about the climate of authordom right now is you can have a Shopify, but if you hate it, don't do it. You can have a TikTok shop. I know we just talked to Willow Winter. She's like, she has a huge empire of direct sales, especially paperbacks and book boxes and stuff. But she's not doing TikTok shop. And some other people are only doing TikTok shop. It's like,
I think in the author world, the word need gets thrown around so ridiculously. So I love to do this with people when they're like, well, I really need to get direct sales going. And I'll stop them and I'll say, so like, what do you really need to do? You maybe need to eat. Like, you could probably go a little while without eating. Maybe the need to drink is a little bit higher. But for sure, you need to take a breath every so often. Like, that's about where we're at. Like, you need to breathe. The rest we could probably figure out. So, like, do you need a Shopify store? Maybe. But we, like, put all this pressure on ourselves. Like, well, it's the big thing. Like, I could do this, and I need to start this. And then I can, like, once I hear the N word, like need, or the S word, which is should, you start to see the weight come into people's visage and you hear it in their voice. And it's just like, we do this to ourselves. We like weigh ourselves down with needs and shoulds because someone else is doing it that we admire, when what we need to do is take a breath and then figure out what actually feels fun, like you just said, Lee. Like, what's fun? Like, what's exciting? What's fun for me, so that you want to keep doing it. We're so
And
fun.
I think that so often we look at someone who has figured it out. Like, again, Willow Winters. I look at everything she's doing. I'm like, oh my goodness. And at this mastermind, someone's like, she's like the Martha Stewart of romance. I'm like, yes, the young, gorgeous version of, yes, book Martha Stewart. But talking to her, I get the sense that she's doing exactly what she wants, exactly what fills her well, exactly what lights her up. And you're like, oh, I should do that. But then actually it's filling her up. So she's leaning into what makes her happy. And so I should do that. I should find out what makes me happy and do more of it.
I mean, that's the real power, right? What I think Willow really has going for her is that she thinks differently, in that she thinks about what feels good to her. Like, she has her own printing press. And I'm not about to go buy my own printing press or produce my own movie, right? Like, I was listening to your podcast with her. Like, that doesn't really excite me, but it does excite her, and you feel and see that. So there's a completely different energy around Willow, because she's so excited about what she's doing, and it's fun. So when you talk to her, we're all drawn to Willow. She's amazing. She's so fun. I just met her in person at Author Nation. And I mean, it was a very quick, brief thing, and we've emailed since, but it's like, you just want to hang out with her, right?
Yeah.
Her energy is so cool, versus like, oh, you don't hear Willow being like, I really, really need to get a how-to guide on my printing press going, right? You know, like, you don't hear her say stuff. Like, she thinks differently about things, and that's such a superpower, and it's something all of us can do. We just need to think.
Well, and on top of that, like what I had lunch with her at Author Nation, and she just has like a whole team who like does all of the things that she like trusts implicitly from her husband on down. Like, she's like, as she's talking, she's like, I'm sorry, I'm going to do this. And whenever we talk, if I have an idea, I'm going to turn my phone over and like write it down, and then I'm going to come back. And I was like, awesome, same. But like, it was all like, this is a fun thing, and I have the support for it, as opposed to where I think a lot of people have is like, this is fun, so I should just like chaos it in there. And like, look, I love a bit of chaos, but like, it also feels overwhelming, right? When you're like, now I have to do the TikTok shop while I'm setting up my Shopify, while I'm running a Kickstarter, and I have a Substack, and I'm doing all of these things like on top of each other instead of like sequencing. So I do think that I tell people all the time when I consult, my S word is, you have a sequencing problem. You don't actually have a like writing problem or like, you have a sequencing problem, and that's it.
Interesting. So wait, explain more what you mean. Like, what's a sequence to you? What's your definition of a sequence?
Okay, so like, let's say you're trying to run Amazon ads on a series before you have 4 books in that series. Like, you might like succeed. Like, there are books where like you could put 1 book and it like just goes gangbusters. But like, if you take all of the books that work on like, and you line them up, most of them, the highest propensity start working either at 4 books breaking even or slightly after 4 books breaking even. So like, if you're running Amazon ads at 2 books, like, and you're not breaking even, like, I can't tell you what's wrong, because like, there's no reasonable expectation for you to break even at 4 books. You're doing it out of sequence. So like,
So there's like an order, like you get the 4 books out and then you do this thing, and this is the sequence to success kind of deal.
right. Well, you might get success otherwise. Like, I had success on my first Kickstarter I ever ran. And like, it wasn't a great success, but like, I've seen people run a Kickstarter. I made $5,000, which is good for a first Kickstarter. But like, I've seen people run like 50 grand campaigns on their first campaign. One of our mastermind people is like made 50 grand, I think 50 grand her first, and you're like, okay, awesome. That is abnormal. You shouldn't use that to like pin your success on. You should instead say, well, most people that succeed have a signature series that's at least 10 books long. Most 6 and 7 figure authors have one series that has 10 books or like 1,000,000 words in it. So like, reasonably, if you want to be a successful author, like, you probably should write a series of longer books. And if you don't do that and then you complain about it, I don't know. if you're like, I can't tell you if you've done something that is broken or not because like there's no reasonable expectation that like you should be a seven-figure author if you've only written 3 books. Like that's wild.
I think too, like the greater problem here, and it's so ingrained, is that we have tied success to number of dollars. So
Right.
people, I mean, and I've done this too, right? And sometimes I still do it because it's easier to talk with people about this. But, it's like, I was like, if I could just be a six-figure author, like if I could just, but I never could finish that sentence. Then what? If, then what? Like I was never able to finish it. It was just this trailing, if I could just. But then, like, once I broke six figures, it was like, how do I maintain this? Right. So then there's like a stress point that I didn't know was there. And so then it's like, well, I remember when I did $500,000 one year and I was like, okay, seven figures is the next one. And then it was like, oh no, then what? Like I was never just excited in that moment because it's all like the culture that we have around aligning our success with dollars, it's all destination living. If I could just get here then, but we can't
Right.
finish that because you wouldn't say like if I could just get there then I would be happy because it's probably a lie. Because the truth is that the joy and love of the process is actually the cool part. And we miss that when we're focused on I just want to be seven figures. I just want to get to six figures. But you're skating by all the fun stuff, which is the writing. Like it's the writing, it's the creativity and the ads. Like it's talking to people like you. Like all of this is the fun stuff. And then but we're trying to hit this dollar amount that's so objective. Like
Right.
what does that even mean? If, the year I did 500,000, I spent like $250,000 or something on Facebook ads.
Right.
And I stopped writing and it was miserable.
Mhm.
And then I was like, what am I doing?
You were just marketing.
I've become a marketer. And it was a wonderful experience. I'm so grateful for because then I was like, what am I doing? I'm not writing. I'm not happy. And it's taught me a huge lesson, right? To it's taken me some time to unbraid the dollar numbers from my worth and success and say, I'm just super excited to be here today. Like, it doesn't
Right.
actually matter what money comes because I'm doing the thing I love. That's hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I went to a creative business conference in June, and I was like, awesome, because I don't understand why I can't hit 100 grand. I just like don't understand. Like, I feel like I have like a conference, and like I have the whole stack that courses and stuff, and I left it being like, oh, they work like 18 hours a day. Like that's like that. Like doing it that way is definitely not going to like make it happen for me because like I work 2 hours a day, like maybe 4 hours a day. I spend a lot of time like staring off into space and disassociating. So if you count that time, like maybe it's 12 hours a day, because I am technically sitting at my computer or like going to, but like I like am like, well, if all I can do is like the exact thing that I like want to do, and like I don't have to feel guilty because there's money coming in, then like I don't know. It's like, do I really know if I have like do I know if I like to my material happiness, does it matter if I made an additional like 200,000 or 300,000 above like what I need to make to like have all of my accounts be going up and like to like be saving for the future and to like have all like if I make 300 grand more than that instead of 200 grand more or 100 grand more, like am I materially like better off now? It's because it's like all in some magical retirement account for me anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, when I'm gonna work really, really hard, so I can do what I want. It's like, what do you want to do? I want to write books and hang out with my friends. And
Oh, wait, I'm already doing that.
yeah, or you can just do that now. There's a Mexican proverb like that. The American businessman goes to Mexico. There's a fisherman, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, I was gonna catch some fish, and I'll go home and play cards with my friends and feed my family." And the American businessman was like, "You could scale this operation up. You could hire people. You could have 50 boats, and then you build and build and build and work 18-hour days, and then you can retire." And then the fisherman's like, "And then what?" He's like, "Well, then you can just go fishing for fun, and then go home and play cards with your friends. You're so smart."
I feel like you almost have to get to that point, though, where you have to learn the lesson and make a choice, right? Like, I think all of us are just flailing in the wind, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, we're just trying to figure it out and land somewhere. Like Russell, you're trying to figure out, like, why am I not doing this? What's going on? And that's such a cool place to be because you're actually asking and looking. Like I know you well enough and I've listened to enough of your content that it's like you're so open and honest about everything, right? That you're just like, what am I doing? Well, this is what I'm doing and this is where I want to be, but I'm only working this many hours. Like you're actually looking at it, and that's such a cool spot because that's where like the change and excitement comes. Like that's like the step before the new big thing that you get to create. It's just so cool, right? It's chaos, but not really.
Yeah, I think it's like that calm before the storm, right? And we're so trained as humans in like this universe we live in where like our heroes are the ones who like are working 18 hours a day and to like cut their workforce by 80% so they can like make a number go up next year, that we like are, whenever like there's stillness, we're like, well, this is wrong. This is like, I really believe that like the more like the real work of like mental health and a lot of what like mindset stuff for businesses at least is like being comfortable when like nothing's happening, not when things are going bad. Like lots of people are like at their best when like everything's going to shit, like I'm in there, like, or like when things are going really well, or even when things are going average. It's like I take every December off, and I'm like, usually I have some project that I'm working on. And this year I'm just like, I have nothing. I'm like, how do I do this again, but like slightly better? But like I don't want to necessarily want to add things. I just want to like add money. And like it's very hard to wake up in the morning and be like, I have to just sit and exist and like meet with people and believe that like I'm going to figure out the how the chaos crashes together properly in that time. It's, to me, it's like as like a type A person who's like a perfectionist, I'm always like, so like that like unclenching has been like really, I mean, Lee and Renee and like hanging out with Lee so much is like super helpful because she's like, I just worry about millionaire problems. I'm like I just worry about like bankruptable problems. I'm like, I have people to worry about all the to like can make the other stuff work. And I'm like, it's like so much healthier than most people can be because they're living paycheck to paycheck. But even people that like are successful, they always talk about metrics. And I'm like, I don't, or like maximizing profit. I'm like, do you know what the real power move is? It's like not maximizing anything. It's just like letting money happen and like unmaximizing it and being like, yeah, whatever. This could cost me 10, I could save 10 grand on this, but like I don't have to. And so, sure, here's extra money here's the extra money because I don't want to have to suffer for it.
I think there's some scarcity mindset in here in that sometimes people get used to putting out fires. So if there's no fires, they create them because they're like, if I'm not scrambling and if it's not hard, then I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not earning it. Money has to be hard. I do like, Russell, that at 2 hours a day, you're essentially making a lot of space for creativity. And right now you're doing that to the extreme. You're like, this is the off season. This is when it's winter and the crops aren't growing and the fields are fallow. But that allows me to have a good harvest 9 months from now. And doing the thinking and doing the, okay, what are the 20% levers I can pull that will move 80%? Instead of me running around and pulling all the levers, which are the levers, because I'm supposed to be working hard. And you said that some people are doing everything all at once. I think, again, they feel like I have to be doing everything or I'm not working enough. And that's a like, am I good enough as I am problem.
I think in my experience, when the doing is the focus, which is exactly what you're talking about, Lee, then I'm in a control trap. I think that if I can do, then I control and I can make a specific outcome. And almost never does that specific outcome come because we have like fantastical thinking. It's that whole, if I could just cross 6 figures then, but you can't finish that because it's all just fantasy, right? So when I'm stuck in the doing, like if I do this, if I do this, if I do this, I'll just get the list done. Then I have some semblance of control over this outcome, and that feels good. And then I can prove my worth. So everything said, like 100%, like we feel like The doing is proving that we're worth this, we're valuable, our books should be in the world, people should read us. But Russell, it feels like what you're doing is the actual answer, which is being. So it's like, okay, so you take away the doing, but then what? And it's like, doing isn't the answer, it's the being, right? It's that going back to that fun, that like passion, like you want to be this writer that is doing all of the fun things so that you can be the person you want to be. And you'll still do stuff. Obviously, we have to do stuff. Like we have to wake up and do stuff. But it's not all it's not the 80% that's doing nothing. Then you're all of a sudden focusing on the 20% that does everything and you're doing it more wisely. So it's this whole, I call it the morass. Like there's this idea that we're not good enough and we don't belong. And so we do things to prove we are good enough, to have some control of the process and create an outcome that we think is best. But there's no stillness and there's no trust in that. And like Russell is saying, stillness is actually the answer, and trust. Like Russell, you're investing a certain amount of trust that I'm going to just hang out in December and everything is going to be okay. And this will be worthwhile because I'm being present with myself, right? And not everyone has to do it that way. They're going to do it their own way, but there's power in that.
Lee, you look like you had like a ton of stuff to say.
Yeah, I was just thinking that the doing is best when it flows from the being.
Yes, that's such a great way to say it.
Yeah. So Russell, just sit there and think 7-figure thoughts, and then you'll make the moves. And then the whole idea of forcing it, we've all sat in front of a computer and been like, just fix the plot. And then you go for a walk and you take a shower. And in 2 seconds, you have the plot solution. Mm-hmm. So instead of like ramming through all this work, you give it space and the magic happens because we're not just a conscious mind. We have this powerful subconscious engine and you have to allow that to work. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways it works is if you say, oh, I am this, I am a runner. It's like, oh, okay. And you're like, and I hang out with all these runners and they all wear this type of shoes. And then your subconscious mind goes, oh, well, we're going to buy those shoes. And it'll naturally like self-select to be like, oh, you're online and you see them on sale and you just have bought them. And it's just a natural flow, but it comes from the being. The steps come from being because that's the way our subconscious mind works.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is super powerful, but also like I think it's important that we can visualize the win condition of like what it really means to like be like, okay, so like I consider myself semi-retired because like about 60 to 80% of the time I like do whatever I want. And like, the things I like doing are writing and doing this podcast and like writing on Substack or like, and then there's like 20 to 40% that's like putting together Facebook ads and like doing some other thing that I don't like that maybe someone else is their like win condition. And so I started thinking a couple of years ago, like, well, like what would it mean to retire? And I don't think that like as a creative human, like, or like as a go-getter kind of human, which I think we all are on some level, like we're ever going to retire, like, and just do nothing. Or like we're not going to like stop writing books. Probably. Like we might write different books. We might write like less in a series. We might write less frequently, but like there's probably going to be writing, like even in retirement. So like, okay, well, like what does that mean? Like how can so I've been trying to I call it pulling forward your win condition, where it's like, okay, well, like what if that was now? Like, what if that was 5% now? Like, what if this was 10% now? Suddenly you're like, oh, well, like I'm 38. Well, I'm 42 now, but like I was 38 when I started thinking about this and like, oh, well, I'm a 0% retired now human. But like in 4 years, I've been able to be like, well, that in order to like really retire, like I would need to make X amount of money. I need to surround myself with Y amount of people. I need to like do Z amount of things. And then like I can go to the movies 4 times a week if I want to, or like go out to dinner whenever I want, or like whatever those things are. So like I think that if we can like you said, Lee, like if we can then be like, okay, well, like what does the condition that I need above this equal? And then like once we have that, we can sort of like, and we can pull forward any win condition. We can pull forward 10 different win conditions over the course of like a year if we want to be like, maybe I want to be a stock car racer. I don't want to be a stock car racer in retirement, but like, what if I want to go fishing? Like all of these things we can like kind of pull forward and see how they feel. But like, we can't do that if we don't have the space to do that.
I love it. It's so intentional and strategic, right? While you're still being who you are. So the intention and strategy, just like Lee says, flows from you knowing who you want to be and who you are and what you want. And
Yes.
and when that comes, it's everything. I want to say that the the affirmations, the seven-figure thinking, all that stuff, there was a time when I was desperately doing that. Like I was just writing in my journal every day. Money flows to me, money is easy. Like, I was doing all the money mindset hacks that you hear about, especially in entrepreneurial circles. Like if you go outside publishing, which is mostly what I do. I don't do a lot of time in publishing, but I go outside publishing and look at markets and other people and businesses and companies, and how do you do this, how do you tackle this, and it's all the same problems, right? Like all of us have the same problems across it. I was doing that, like writing, like trying to change my money mindset, like figuring it out, and it never, like it just felt so empty to me. Like I'm going to think the positive thoughts, I'm going to like write these down, I'm going to like try to think like I already have $1 million or whatever, and it always rang hollow to me. And it was a couple years and just this year that I actually figured out why. And it's because I had an actual core belief system that I wasn't good enough and that I wasn't worth it, right? So I only want to say that for those of you out there who are doing the affirmations, who are trying to fix the mindset, who are trying to think big and picture yourself there, and you're doing all of that visualization and stuff, all of that is still very powerful and helpful. But for me, in my experience, there was like a nugget, like a core belief that prevented me from actually believing any of those things. And then I just got resentful about them because it just felt stupid. So if you are in that position, maybe like dive a little deeper, right? Like what do you actually believe about yourself? What do you actually believe about your author career? I just spoke to an author last night who said to me, he'd reached out just needing someone to talk to. And I was like, yeah, let's hop on a call. So he said to me, he goes, I just think someone else is better for this than me. I'm too late to the game. Someone else should be doing this, like blah, blah, blah. And then it turns out that like there's all these other beliefs behind that were much bigger and darker that we could kind of root out for him to actually start believing that it was worth it and that he deserved a spot at the table.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it didn't. I said those affirmations and did like positive thinking stuff like from age 18. And then I made like 30,000 a year for 10 years in a row, like doing all the like positivity stuff. And it was because whenever I said, I'm rich, there was the real affirmation would come after that. And it was very quiet and would go, no, you're not.
Yes,
and
that's the power. Yes.
Yeah. And I wrote about it in my book, Adventures with the Universe. I was like, this is called the negative echo. You have to listen for it though. Because you're like, no, I'm saying the affirmations. I'm looking at myself in the mirror and saying, I am worthy. And then there's this quiet voice that goes, no, you're not. That's the real affirmation. Every time you say an affirmation, you're really feeling this way. And so that's what you're actually affirming. But real quick, what Russell said about the win condition, that finishes your sentence, Katie. When I make six figures, I will go to the movie 4 times a week. So if that's the win condition,
oh yeah,
you finish the sentence. And the trick is, guys, go to the movies now. Like,
right, do it.
Yeah, like once. Maybe you're like, well, I can't afford it. Okay, one time, once a month. And when you go, be like, I go to the movies because you are.
Well, and nothing bad happened because, like, I think that, hanging out with so many successful authors, it's like they all write books and then like they do some sort of advertising and like they have some sort of audience somewhere and like otherwise like, and it's like they're not doing anything I'm not doing. So like either I'm writing the wrong books or like I was like, Terry Pratchett wrote 42 books in his life or 52 books. And I'm like, I wrote 42 books. So it's like, I have to be able to figure out like maybe not as successful as Sir Terry Pratchett, but like had to be able to figure out how to sell like 1 million books, right? Like he had so like the same number of books in his career. And like, I am a very good writer. And like, when you look at it, it's like, it's just no one's successful unless they're like trying to be like the unicorn kind of people. Like eventually they're like, yeah, I took my foot off the gas and like I realized that like if I have 10 books, what Kevin McLaughlin was saying, like if you have four series that have 12 books each or more, that's like a $50,000 career you have because everyone you should be able to spend 10 grand on ads and make 20 grand on it. And like you don't have to do, or like AG Riddle is always like, you guys do so many things. I'm like, I just want to write a book and put Amazon ads on it and then write the next book. Like that's all I want to do. And I'm like, well, look, I don't know how to manipulate the things that AJ Riddle does. But like, I also can write a book. Theoretically, it is possible to write a book, put an Amazon ad on, and then do nothing else except write the next book and maybe run Amazon ads for other people, but mostly just because they're annoying. They like ask so many times. They're willing to pay you so much money. But like, I don't know like what book you have to write. I don't know what Amazon ads you have to put on, but like theoretically, like there are two buttons you have to get right. And like if you're doing 500 other buttons to make like a 7-figure career or like you're making a 4-figure career, maybe it's because like there's not focus. Whereas like I find it so wild that like people like I don't want to say rock star, but like direct direct sales people are like rock star like indie publishing people now when like it used to be the opposite. Like we were like it was well if you're not making it on Amazon, you're not making it. Like what I love about this world is people realize that like $1 million on your website is like spends of the same. Like you can buy the same things as the 7 figures you get on Amazon. Like um, so yeah, it's like it's like interesting because for me, direct sales allows a certain group of people who are like, I don't understand how to write book and put Amazon ad on, but I do understand how to launch Kickstarter and like make 20 grand on it. I do understand how to like make cross sells and upsells work on my website and like make 7 figures on it. And it's like, what to go back to what we were saying, like people are always thinking like, oh, it's the next thing, it's the next thing. It's like, well, it's just you get more hooks. You get more like bait. You get more like now you can be like, oh, I don't Kindle Unlimited's not working, but like I'm wide and like look at my Apple sales and like look, the Apple sales lead to like a course sale over here or like I work the speaking circuit or like, whatever that thing is. It's like I feel like people think about it wrong when they're thinking all these things you have to do. And it's like there are just more opportunities to find that thing that you slide in, connect with, and you're like, oh, why did I make this so hard? Why did I make it so hard?
I ask that question all the time. Why am I making this is ridiculous? I think to kind of go off this mindset of like it's the latest thing, I want to do it. Sometimes like following that latest thing because it calls to you is not a bad idea. So direct sales, I was so frustrated with Amazon. I went into direct sales and that was, I don't know, 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago. It was 2019 when I started setting up. And then I was like, this is it. This is it for me. Like, I love this, right? So here I'm going to stay. Like, I'm going to stay here because I wanted a situation that was B2C, which means business to customer. Because Amazon is a B2B2C. Draft Digital is a B2B2C, which means business to customer. And in all of the entrepreneurial like spheres and circles that I was in, I was like, this is not an ideal situation. I want connection to my readers. Like I want to hang out with book readers and I want to write books. And so I decided to stay a while. So there's no shame in trying direct sales or trying different things because sometimes you have to flail in the wind before you find your thing. But going back to what you said, Russell, it's about focus. And Lee, you brought this up too, where it's like death by tasks where people are used to chaos. So they create the chaos because the chaos is at least familiar and it makes them feel like they're doing something. So they can reassert the belief system that they're not good enough. We just self-sabotage, right? But the important part is when you find your place, like I found with direct sales, you focus. And for me, and a lot of people like A.G. Riddle, for Willow Winters, for so many of these people, the books are the entire purpose. That's it. Like that's what we're here for. So then you slide into that focus. Direct sales just gives you a lot more opportunities on the marketing and relationship side, which is what I felt like what I heard from you, Russell.
Yeah, absolutely. And that chaos bit's so important because like, okay, to go back to the sequencing thing we said, like the biggest part of the sequence is time. And like I own a conference. It is in March, which means it is only now that people care about this conference to even look at it to consider buying it. Which means I've been talking about this conference for 9 months, and 90% of people like don't know that's not true because I reach out to about 100 people a week, and like 99% of them have never heard of it. Like, and I'm like, I've been talking about this conference for 2 years now. Like, and but like people have tuned out because like there was Nink, there was Ram, there was Author Nation, there was an election, there is the holiday season, and like so like a lot of times I sit down and we say we're like, is there anything we're saying working? Like and we don't know because like the only time we'll know is like once time happens. And Monica hates when I say this, and because she's like, there's other things, but like, man, it's like I like a big part of that explosion of chaos, I think, is like, well, there are no more actions I can take, Katie. Like, I can't take any more action. There's a finite number of ads you can start in a day. There's like a finite number of words you can write in a day. Like, there's a finite number. And once you're done with those actions, if you're still like, but I'm not there, like, it's like, well, I can blow some shit up. And like, at least then my hands are busy.
Yes. It's control. We're trying to control the outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially when the outcome is so fluid, like all of entrepreneurship is so fluid, where it's like, well, sure, my book's sold, which means they're probably going to sell tomorrow, but like, are they? Like, are like is this retailer going to go down and pay me? Like, is this is like are people going to be over flooded in the market? Like, I don't like unlikely things, but like someone asked me at Author Nation, they're like, why does it always feel like I'm scared of writing this book? Like, why does it feel like this one is not going to like be the one that works? And I was like, oh, that's easy because it probably won't. Like, it's like it's like, look, we are all live in a world where like you may have written your best book already. Like if you've written 40 books, like there's a good chance you've got 40 books left in you. Like you probably wrote you there's a 50-50 shot you've written the best book of your life. And like there's a good shot that the next you'll never have a hit again. Like there's like these are real possibilities. And like I whenever I talk to writers, like I feel like they feel like they're gaslighting themselves by saying like, oh, but this is not going to happen to me. Because like bullshit, it might happen to you. But like we have to make the affirmative, we have to say, okay, how can I do the most things to make sure this doesn't happen? It's probably not going to happen. It's like 99.9999999% chance that the thing I just said is not true. But like if we don't at least acknowledge these things are possible, then like when reality hits, we're like, oh, now I don't trust myself anymore. Like because I said that this could never happen and it did. And like I swear to God, his wife was sitting next to me and she started to cry. So this is the first time I've actually understood like this career ever.
Wow, that's a big one. The fears that people bring into this are so big and so real, right?
Yeah.
That's wow.
Yeah, there it's
I love your acceptance, Russell. Right? Because I think that guy, like that question that why does this always feel like it's not gonna like that weight? I can just feel it in the words, right? It's again the coolest spot to be standing because he's asking.
right.
And there's a point at which I feel all of us have probably gotten, whether we acknowledge it or not, where we say, yeah, it could, might, I'm
Yeah.
gonna write it because frankly, it's a freaking awesome book. Right? Like,
Yeah.
And then, yeah. And then you say, and it won't matter.
yeah.
Because I wanted to write this and I'm a writer and I love being a writer.
Yeah.
And it'll reach someone.
And I'm a success no matter what. I am already successful. And you be that. And it's like Renee asked herself, oh my God, what if I lose it all? She was going through a divorce. And then she's like, and her coach was like, what would happen then? And Renee's like, well, I guess I'd still have me and everything I've learned. So I could build it back if I wanted, or I could build something better, or I could build something different, something fun for me to build in my 50s. And her coach was like, yeah. And then the irony is, from that, now you are a success. So then when like literally Apple will email me and be like, your book is eligible for this promotion. And I will go, well, I don't know if I'm good enough. Like, I watch these thoughts go through my head. I don't know if I'm good enough. And then I'm like, they literally emailed you. You must apply. Like, it's now an exercise in just self-affirmation for me to send my book back to Amazon or Apple and be like, I would like you to promote this, and they can reject me or not. And most of the time they just reject me and I don't even know. Like, they don't send me the email saying I was accepted. So I guess I was rejected, but I'm still alive. And if I come at it from my books are worthy and I am successful, even if they don't sell on Apple and I don't get the book bub and I don't get the promotion, then I'm happy. Then I'm just hopping around, just this happy little bunny. I'm able to create. I'm able to take marketing opportunities that fall on my lap. That guy could have walked up from that table and been like, well, the pressure's off. What have I have to lose? Walked into a room and someone says, there's this new social media platform, because there's always a new thing. And it's for guys who are bald. And he's like, I'm bald. I can do it. And they dance the chicken dance. And he's like, oh my God, I could do that, because he's happy and he's open and he's not in this doom spiral. So maybe everyone just needs to hit rock bottom. Then you'll be like, okay, I'm still me. I still have a pulse, and maybe I am worthy, and then go from there.
So in Al-Anon, they have this saying that my friend Martha Carr told me about. She said, that which belongs to me can never be taken from me. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really powerful, because it's a reminder of everything that belongs to us is right here, right? I mean, everything technically could be taken from you in some ways, but that which belongs to you can never be taken from you. Also, Lee, I think you really nailed it in that it's about taking the wins when they come. That's exactly what you did. Like, you got the email from Apple and you listened with curiosity, like, well, I'm thinking I'm not good enough, but obviously I am, because they emailed me, right? So you actually take the wins, because what happens is when you're in that place that this guy who was talking to Russell's, you miss every win. You miss everything. You don't actually see the little things that are affirming how much you're worth it. And when you open your mindset, the way you're saying, Lee, it's like all of a sudden you get flooded with, oh, like, I have arrived. I just got this really sweet email that you would have discounted and made small. You would have been like, well, that's one person and blah, blah, blah. Like, that doesn't matter because this person's selling 100,000 books a day, which probably isn't true, right? So it's like we miss all the signs that will affirm that we're enough. And once you start taking those in, and just like you were saying, Lee, like, you take them in and you say, I am a success. Look at what just happened. Like, I am a success. I think the small day-to-day accepting the successes and bringing them in is actually how you change that. It's how you get out of fear-based thinking and open yourself to something better.
Yeah, well, there's the other thing. I forget which episode we talked about this on. It's somewhere, but it's the idea where, like, when something bad happens, Lee or Renee or someone taught me to be like, oh, what good thing is going to happen? Like, there's always a good thing that comes from, like, the bad thing. And, like, is there always? I mean, statistically, like, they don't necessarily, like, correlate to each other. But, like, when I say like, oh, I won, now I'm gonna lose. Like, I don't need to, like, make that thing, but I do need to say, like, okay, someone hated my book. That means I'm, like, closer to someone, like, loving my book. Like, that one person out of 100 people, if one person's gonna hate it and one's gonna love it, like, cool. And that's 99 other people, and, like, one of those ones is gonna be the one to love it. But, like, this is my hardest thing with success, is decoupling self-worth from how much money you make. And I think this is, like, a lot of us, maybe all of us, but, like, a sure lot of us, we end up, like, once we usually have been told we're not good enough, or, like, we're going to be, or we felt like a failure, and then we put a book on and like, oh, look, this is real fun. Like, look, I must be good. Because, like, look at sales numbers go up. And, like, I tell people all the time, like, this is dangerous. You need to decouple that. Like, you need to, like, stop thinking that, like, those things are related. And then sure enough, like, 6 months, a year later, it's like, and this is the problem is not this success. The problem is like all success is cyclical, and like if you never get to that part again, suddenly will you never be good enough again? Like if you're here and you're the best, and then you're only here the next time, and then you're here and like you still are doing better than 99% of authors or like 99% of people, but like you only made 300,000 this year, not 500,000. Up, you're down from 1 million 2 years ago. So like I must be half as good. I must be 30% as good, right? Because I was the most good here. And if we can't decouple these things to like just say like I have self-worth for existing. Like I am here. I have as much self-worth as like Steve Jobs does or Bill Gates or Lee or Katie or Russell, or if I just can wake up and do nothing. I could slovenly sit for 50 years in a bed and like my self-worth has no effect on my self-worth. Like once we can get to that point of doing that work to decouple, which I do think a lot of times, like people do like all of these, I'm going to do all the things because it's like, well, I got to get that self-worth up, man. Like if I can't get up, I can never prove to my husband or my wife or my best friend that like I didn't just waste my life like making these books. But like, yeah, I think that like I mean, I've been on this train and I'm also on tons of meds now. And like meds are very good at helping that. But like part of that, like, how do we decouple these two things so like we can have success and we can have self-worth? And like this is always good, no matter what this is doing.
Yeah, I feel like that almost brings us full circle to like where we started when we were talking about, we classify ourselves in publishing according to dollars. Like I'm a six-figure author. I'm a multiple six-figure author. I'm a seven-figure author, right? Like it's how we present who we are. I've seen this because like I said, I go outside of publishing to study business, right? So I study content creators on YouTube a lot because it's really not that different. Like they tell stories and I follow the most random people on YouTube. But what's so interesting there is you'll see like two powerful YouTube channels collaborate together and they'll put into parentheses how many followers the other one's has. Like it's their dollar amount, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see these like even teenagers, like there's this family that my kids love to watch and they have teenagers that all have their own separate channel and the family has a channel and there's another channel and then the kids have a channel and they're like, I have this many subscribers, let's get me some more. And I'm not like trying to say that necessarily that's wrong. I'm just saying like the I am this number is tied into so many different platforms and things. And I think it's the work of being human to untie that. Because when I really believed that my worth depended on what I did, to hear someone say, you could lay in bed for 50 years and not do a thing and still have worth, I'd be like, yeah, right. Yeah, right. Like, that's not true. It takes a lot of very intentional digging to get to a place where you can agree with what Russell said, right? Like,
Right.
yeah, that person has value and worth without proving it. That's hard. That's a lot.
Well, and it's a lot harder if you can't look at like objective metrics too, because it's like, well, I don't know. I've been a six-figure author since 2017. Like, I'm success, like but just objectively, like if you look at like all of the things, but it becomes a lot harder when like you're at the beginning of your career to be like, how can you say that? I've never written a book. I've never done anything. Like, I'm still in school. Like, I'm just spending money. Like, I feel like, but that doesn't make it any less true.
This is such a cool discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, it's all about direct sales.
It is, right? Like it's totally, this is the message that I'm always trying to put in the world when people talk to me about direct sales, because direct sales is not going to mean anything to you if you're coming at it from a place of, I'm not selling books on Amazon. I need to get my worth and my value up and I'm going to sell books here. And you're going to get so far. I see it all the time. Like people coming to me like, well, I started it and it failed and I only sold this many books. And I'll be like, congrats, that's a lot of books. And they're like, it's not that many books. And like, really? Like, what were your goals? And once you break it down, it's all mindset. So direct sales is most successful when you can come into it with this mindset of, I want to connect with my readers. I want more control over the sales process. I have really pretty fun goals that I'm excited to meet. And I'm focused on the thing that matters most, which is in our case, usually writing. But I'm not going to say that for people because for other people it'll be different, right? That's the winning formula, direct sales. And so if we don't talk about this, which most people aren't talking about, then other people can talk about all of the metrics and whatever. They can talk about that. That's important in certain places too. But if you really want people to be successful at direct sales, this is the way, right? Like you have to tackle mindset to make this worth it and fun. And if it's not fun, then what are we doing?
Yeah, absolutely. And like to me, so many people who have so many different businesses, like what is really interesting is like direct sales allows you to find different things to catch. It's just like everyone who I know who is like successful in direct sales is like, I got it. Like I went to Substack and I was like, oh, I get it. Like I just like I understand and like I did things and like they worked and I was like, of course they worked. Like this is so obvious. But it's like in the like I'm also on Blue Sky and nothing about that platform is obvious to me. Like I don't get any. I'm like I post the same things, I do the same actions, but like I don't get the same results. And like Lee, I know you've talked about this with like Shopify and like just like you're like, oh, I know. Like I don't know how I don't know what's going to work necessarily, but like I understand the mechanics of how this works like immediately. And I think that like I spent so many years looking at an Amazon dashboard and being like, I don't understand. Like this is just the number, line goes up, like line goes up, line goes down, like what does this even mean? Like, who cares if they're buying for free or 99 cents or $20? Like, it's just like a line graph. And like, but like when I was able to bring it to Kickstarter or like subs or like I'm like attach it to a human, I'm like, oh, I know how to make a human like excited for my work. I don't know how to make a line graph like excited for my work though. All right. Well, Lee, do you have any final words on that? You seem to have been meditating over there for like quite a bit.
I know.
Like,
I had a big lunch / brunch and I'm digesting it and I'm yawning and I'm like, stop yawning, but oh well. I'm just gonna lie in bed for 50 years and be worthy still.
I love it.
I think if someone's listening to this and is like, okay, what do I do now? Coming from a place of you're worthy now, and then if you feel like you're worthy now, what are you going to do with your life? You'll probably focus on what's fun and exciting and what you love. And I will say this about Shopify is I got the feeling. I was like, this. And that was nice because then it was very clear. And then I was like, yeah, I'll just do it on the side. And then I was like, no, you have to focus on it. So then I focused on it. And I did feel like this. And then it took me like 9 months to get like, okay, actually just do this. And then it's been really fun. And anything that moves you closer to the customer, to the reader, I think is the way. So.
And also it's okay to twirl in the wind for 9 months. And
yeah, it's okay.
Do you have any final thoughts about anything before we get out of here, Katie?
Just thanks for having me. Like, it's so exciting to have these discussions and know they're going to go in the world and just meet my people and hang out. It was such an honor to hang out with you guys and be invited here. So thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for being awesome.
Thank you
for being here. So, all right. Have a great time, everyone.
Thanks for listening. For more, head on over to sixfigureauthorexperiment.com for archive access, resources, and more. We'll see you next time.